Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also catch us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, as well as at my website, which is www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week we focus on news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce one a longtime friend of mine and one hopefully a new friend of mine. And they are Caleb Owolabi. Do I have it, Caleb?
You got it, Blaine. Owolabi. Yep.
Owolabi, I should know that, a documentary filmmaker. And he's here with Dr. Perry Stamatiades. Help me with it, Doc, the last name.
Stamatiades, or it can be amplified as Stamatiades. It's fine.
Okay.
Dr. S is great.
Dr. S, I think I'll go with that as well. And guys, you can feel free to wave to all your friends and friends who are watching this somewhere. Okay.
Hello.
And I'm not at a disadvantage, but intentionally, I don't know too much about you, Dr. S. I know a little bit about Caleb. So let me just ask you, Dr. S, in terms of you're a dentist, and you're a dentist in the Asheville area. How long have you been in this area?
Well, I'm a native of Asheville. Grew up here. Attended Asheville High. Graduated in 1990. After my schooling, training in Chapel Hill for dental school, eventually came back in 2004, where I worked with a wonderful dentist, Dr. Bill Cave, and by 2005 we transitioned into taking over his practice. Back in 2005.
So you mentioned you grew up in Asheville. As a kid, did you always know you wanted to be a dentist?
No.
Let me ask you, as a kid, what do you want to be?
You know, I like all kids, wanted to probably do more fun things, but then eventually I thought maybe in high school I'd be a lawyer, because I love to debate and love to get deep into thought of things. And then eventually when I got into college, I was a science major, so I fell in love with the body and how it worked, and initially thought I'd want to be a physician. But once I started visiting physicians and kind of shadowing them, it didn't really meet what I wanted to do. I wanted to build relationships, but yet fix concrete things. So I could be an internist that could build relationships with patients, but you're never really. It's a very abstract position where you're treating diabetes, maintaining diabetes, not really curing diabetes. Or you could be an orthopedic surgeon where you're physically fixing something, but yet you don't really get to build a relationship with patients because you may never see them again. So dentistry kind of met both of those needs, where I could see a problem and fix it, but yet build relationships and grow with patients. It was a perfect fit.
And it's interesting because I've spoken to other dentists and said somewhat the same thing, in that if you're a dentist, you're going to see patients several times. You'll see at least on a regular basis. And then I was even surprised too, you're a hygienist to build the same kind of relationships too. I didn't realize that. So you opened your practice, what year?
So 2005 is when I took over. It was a smaller practice, just three operatories. And then we ended up moving to a larger location in 2007, and then remodeling the location in 2017 to now a 10-room clinic.
Okay, wow. And you have how many folks working with you?
Let's see, I have, there are 4 doctors total, including myself, and then we have a team of about another 27 people.
Okay, so a big practice. The name of the practice is again what?
Zoe Dental.
Okay, Zoe Dental. And let me just switch then, jump to, if I can, Caleb. Same kinds of questions, Caleb. So I've known you as an actor. I've known you as a raconteur. I've known you lots of different kinds of things. But I guess I didn't know you as a documentary filmmaker. And so let's take it from the beginning. You grew up where as a kid?
I grew up in Asheville. When I was 18 months old, my father moved here, and he's a marketing professor. So that's what moved my family to Asheville.
Okay, and same thing too. So as a child growing up in Asheville, did you always know you wanted to be a documentary filmmaker?
Oh no, I knew I had an idea of doing some kind of showmanship, to exhibit some form of showmanship. But my family always said it, but I didn't know what it would look like. And so I've had recently the opportunity to do quite a few really impactful documentaries, and I've couldn't be more happy, and excited, especially about, this documentary, Servants of Smiles.
And one of the things that always impressed me with you, Caleb, is that you're a man of many talents. In other words, I know you, Doc, you probably never saw him as an actor, but he's a very talented actor. You've been in the fashion industry. And so it was kind of cool that I saw you now being a documentary filmmaker. And so let's jump right into then this particular documentary. And if you would, I love the name for it, but what was the idea behind the documentary?
Yeah, I mean, Servants of Smiles is exactly what it reads. Dr. Stamatiades and his team at Zoe Dental are big into impacting each other in the community. They have a company culture that's so strong, it's palpable. When my cameramen were filming inside their office, it was like the joy they exhibited and the joy they gave to patients was palpable. They have a day that they do every April called the Servants of Smiles event, where they give out free dentistry. This is teeth cleaning, extractions, and fillings. And they do this at no cost to those who are coming in, all people from all walks of life. We were able to interview those people and film that day of service. But this documentary is going to go into the man and the people behind that mission, because they've been doing it for a decade. So it's a very impressive feat for just one office, and they've got some amazing. I think this year they did. I don't know if there's we have some numbers here. They saw 104 patients, and they did about $47,466 in free dentistry, which is 37 fillings. Is this
Cleanings,
46 cleanings and 33 extractions, all in just one day. So it was really amazing to see. It was pouring rain that day, but people still showed their support. It shows the great need in Asheville, and Zoe Dental is trying to fulfill that need.
And let's talk about that, Dr. S, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw it on the news that morning. I saw it on WLOS. I think I saw it somewhere. Were you on the news that morning?
They came by briefly to showcase the event.
Okay, I remember. It was very impressive, but it's pretty cool because I guess you're helping most of these people that was just mentioned don't have access to dental care, or they don't get dental care. Is that the case?
Yes, a lot of these people kind of fall through the cracks. They're the people under 21 usually have access through Medicaid if they don't meet certain financial criteria, if they meet certain financial criteria. And then as adults, there's really not anything for adults. So if you're not blessed to have the means or to have dental insurance through your employer, then you kind of fall through the cracks. And the stories that we had people spending the night this year, I think it was 8 p.m. in the evening, spending the whole night through this thunder and rainstorm to come to this event because dentistry is expensive. It's not, there's value in what you get, but it's still expensive for a lot of people. So for us to provide this day for those who are trying to decide whether to get food on the table or pay their electric bill or get a tooth filled and get themselves out of pain, this is just a growing need, and it's a little more broader than I think most people in Asheville and West North Carolina know about.
How did you come up with the idea?
About 10 years ago, there was a group out. The North Carolina State Dental Society created an event where they would take doctors in certain cities, underserved areas, called the MOM Project, Missions of Mercy. And they would rent out like school auditoriums. They try to get like 40 dentists, and they get all these military cots and just bring people through. But the only problem was, it's a very expensive event. It takes a lot of time to put together and to coordinate. So they would do maybe one, maybe two events a year in different areas. And I remember they came to Asheville one year, and then they went out to Eastville and other places. But there was a time and period where they never came back. And I used to do a lot of free surgery for the ABCCM, which is a local ministry clinic that has a medical side to the clinic or to the ministry. that I used to do free surgery for them every year.
Okay, so we're back with Dr. S and Caleb talking about Zoe Dental, and you were talking, Doc, about a great concept that I think is definitely needed in the area about people being able to get access to dental care if they couldn't afford it. And I think we left off, you were telling me about that Asheville used to do it, but it was very time consuming, and it wasn't being done after that one time period.
Correct. It was the Dental Society out of Raleigh started coordinating a group of dentists, and I participated in this event, and it's a great event. But there was more of a need, and they came through Asheville one year, but then it was a few years later, and they weren't able to come back. They were just going to other areas, and I was like, what could I do? I tried to be a little more creative. It's like, well, I can take what they have. What if I do a mini project and do it within our own community? What will happen? So I did some research. I'm not the first person to think of this. There was a group in Florida called Dentistry from the Heart, and they kind of started the same kind of concept. And we kind of partnered with them initially, but it was our own project, but that's what they were doing. And then when COVID hit, they kind of fell apart nationally. I'm not even sure if they're doing it locally anymore. And I was like, you know what? We were just using their name. Why can't we just continue doing what we're doing? So we created Servants of Smiles, and we want to continue this. But I guess the bigger vision is now that we have a process over 10 years that we've kind of perfected with our own processes, can we get other dentists now, maybe 11 other offices within a year's time, to where every month we have one of these events for people who just fall between the cracks.
Because the sad thing, like you said, is falling between the cracks. And I've seen that too, that some people never get dental work, and it's funny, we'll talk about kids, and my daughter, for example, never, she could have afforded it, or I could have afforded it, but she didn't go to the dentist for 6 years, I don't know, scared or whatnot. And it's even worse when some people haven't been to a dentist. I guess you see it almost their entire adult lifetime. So you started this year. When was the time you did this year? You had an open
April
session?
22nd this year, we did the event.
And so this was, at least, and I love the title, so it's Servants of Smile. This was the first year it was done in Asheville this past year?
Under that name, it was the year before.
Okay.
2020.
And so now, I love your vision.
2021, 2022, this is our third year under that name.
But the vision, I think, was great. Your goal now is to have other dentists offer that as well. Has that taken off yet?
Not yet. And, I know there are other dentists that give in some way to their community, or maybe have a different passion of where they put their efforts. But, having this talent, which is a unique talent, not many people can fix teeth. There's a shortage of dentists, actually. What can we do as a group? And I don't mind sharing our processes and what we do, the things we've learned over the last 10 years of doing free dentistry through our office, and trying to find people with the same heart to kind of do this project, because it's one thing to do it once, but we want people to fall in love with giving back, because as a dentist, our practice is very successful in the community, and we want to give back, because it's just, I guess, through my faith. That's just what I would like to do. That's just what I was taught to do ever since I was a little kid, is give back.
I'm so impressed in what you're saying, and that reminds me of one of my favorite philosophies by a woman. It came from a woman by the name of Shirley Chisholm. I don't know if you know her, but it's a quote I actually kind of try to live by, and he says exactly what you do, Doc. She says, service is the rent we pay for living on earth. So what are we giving back to the community? And she, by the way, was the first black woman to ever run for president. And she ran for president. She had been a New York City congresswoman for a long period of time. Amazing woman, but I get a chill because I'm hearing you do that. That you have a gift and you're giving it back to the community. And what's really exciting, and I'll ask Caleb to talk about this in a second, is that you set up now a model that, hey, you can do it. I love the idea once a month, but can you imagine if we had in Asheville, every month, somebody could see a dentist, if they couldn't afford it. And Caleb, let me bring it to you then. Um, I talked about this idea, you doing a documentary on this amazing dentist, but how do you come up, how'd that come to fruition? What was the idea behind the documentary?
Well, it's funny. Actually, we were just talking about it. We were like, how did we, it all started from when we met. I was invited to a mastermind group for business leaders where Dr. Stamatiades frequents. And in this group, I was at the time, I was looking for that next documentary that meant something to me, that was really going to challenge me as a documentarian, as a filmmaker. I had just finished a nature documentary that I'd licensed to AccuWeather Television, and I was really looking for something I could do locally too, a story locally. And so, I was asking the table, and Dr. S came up with something really. He was talking about. I had to look at what he did again, because he was speaking on kind of like a public policy type of documentary that addressed homelessness and the homelessness issue in Asheville. And then it just the way he was thinking about it was very unique. I said, I never heard that, but especially not from a dentist. I wouldn't expect that type of, thinking about someone thinking about that, thinking about others in that way. So I said, okay, this is really interesting. And I think I shook his hand, and we exchanged business cards. And maybe about a month later or so, I was like, oh, well, let me give this guy a call. I knew of heard of Zoe Dental, but I didn't know who he was, and found out he's an Asheville native. Learned his story about how he's lived here for several years. He's been doing this day of service for 10 years, but also how he really didn't want this to be about him. He was very humble, and that really tugged on my heartstrings, because I realized that, typically if we're working with a protagonist, everybody wants to be on the spotlight. And so when they realize what this is, they try to elevate or make something more than it is. But everything he was saying, I was so impressed about, and he hadn't published it. No, there hasn't been much press on what he was doing. He was very humble about the amazing things he and his team were doing. He said, I can only work on this if you highlight my team. And he really, he almost didn't want to go through with the documentary. And I said, I understand if you don't want to do it now, because his timing is everything. But I said, you've got a story to tell. He didn't feel he had a story. I said, you have something that people will be inspired by. You're and just the fact that you're native, and then you came back to the city you grew up to work and to practice and then to give back, is that in itself can not only inspire other doctors but other people from all over industries. He agreed that this is something he wanted to do, is to inspire everyone. And so I said, well, let's work together. That's how the documentary came about. So it kind of like, it was very serendipitous, I guess, because I couldn't have written something like this. This is too good of a story, and I'm just happy to be the documentarian to document it.
Talk about the process of documenting it. How long did it take you?
Well, in production, our production calendar was 21 days, approximately 21 days, which we were going to spread out throughout about 3 months. But I condensed it to a month so that we could, one, for resources sake, but also there's a type of flow that you achieve when you're documenting something, when you're doing it day after day. And there's a type of synergy you receive, one with your crew that you're working with, but then also with the people that you're documenting. They start to get used to you and cameras in their face, and going with them, driving in the car with them, and all of the things that we have to do to get an authentic documentary. And Dr. S and his family were so kind, and we're such a great family to work with. And his whole entire team and his staff were so great to work with. I couldn't have asked for a better production timeline. I couldn't have asked for a better production. That's one of the best productions that I've had. Very little fires, if any. And you know, we had a very lean crew, and everyone was great on my end. So you just have to, you know, I've been doing this for some time, so I know the people that I want to work with as well. Everyone, all of my team was local Ashvillians, and so, you know, we all really believed in the story and believed in what Dr. S was doing.
Let me ask you, Dr. S, in terms of your perspective, how was it like to, you know, be having your regular practice, but all of a sudden then having it filmed for 21 days or whatever? Was that disruptive, or how did it feel?
It was I'm a very private person, and so is my wife. So having them in the practice wasn't as difficult as it was having them at home, or following my wife around, or following us around at home. We have 3 high energy kids. It's just a lot to add into a very busy life. Yeah. But my wife and I were a little hesitant. The kids were all about it.
How old are the kids?
The kids are soon to be 11, 9, and 7.
Okay, so it's probably fun for them, so they get to be on film. But
they were very excited, and my wife and I were like, "Oh, so we had to kind of manage expectations with my wife a little bit, because you know, where's this going to go out? I don't know. It's going to be local. Where's this? You know, so.
To do some.
Yeah, and then for me too. But then, you know, like what Caleb was saying, it started becoming fun.
Yeah.
Once myself and my team started realizing that they're not here to make their own agendas. I was very skeptical, because, you know, you see mass media and you see what they do sometimes with documentaries or
Right.
reality TV, and it just, a lot of it just doesn't seem authentic. And I didn't want to be a polarizing figure. I didn't want to put myself up on a pedestal, because there are a lot of great dentists out there. There are a lot of great people that are doing great things out there. I just wanted, you know, after talking, I just wanted to share my story. And Caleb's crew made me feel kind of at ease. And it just helped me just realize, okay, if this is an opportunity, let me just put all my negative, you know, not expectations, but just my feelings about this behind me, and try something new.
Yeah.
And the same way with my team.
I imagine it was surprising for you, though, when Caleb's team came in and you didn't realize you'd also be having them sleep over for 21 days and feed 3 meals a day. You know, it was a whole big production.
They did a good job as far as pacing what they did. So it wasn't just following me every single second of the day, you know, every step I took. Yeah. They were following me a little bit. Then they see me go in my office, and they duck in with the camera and say, "Okay, Dr. S, what's going on now?" Then they go into Katie, my HR, who's my HR, go into her office. So there were some days where they were totally focused on some of my team members, where they went deeper into their lives. And they were nervous, but they did great. And then there were some times they got deeper in my life. But in the practice, they were very respectful of the doctor-patient relationship, and about how, you know, I'm here primarily to do a job for these patients. We're here to serve these patients, and we don't want them to feel they're nervous enough coming into a dental office. The last thing we want them to do is feel uncomfortable with cameras and everything around. So they were very respectful. They, I think we ended up filming a patient or two that were willing to share their story about what we do at Zoe. And they really did a great job. So my fears of being this big mass-produced something that all of America could die, I didn't want that. And I think it would have taken away from the story of really these. I'm an average, ordinary person. My team were just average people trying to see how we can impact the world the best we can with the talents we're given.
Yeah, I love that comment, and I think that the beauty of what you're saying is the fact that, hey, this is what you've done, but it could be replicated elsewhere, you know.
Not only in dental office, but anywhere,
Well, that's
any
what
profession.
I'm thinking, wouldn't that be marvelous? But going back to dentists, one of the things that always upset me, as you said, that if you work for a company that has a good dental plan, you're in good shape. But even if you work for a company, so many companies have like no dental plans, or very for weight, that they're like of no value. It's like you only get so much money. It's a shame because it's so important. And you pointed out too, or Caleb did when talking about the extractions, that if you don't get proper dental care, you're gonna be troubled down the road. You know, and and
Oh yeah.
so back to the people you're mentioning. So they've come this first year. Will they then? Is this going to be an annual event, or do you already have it scheduled for next year?
We haven't. We try to do it every spring. So the last 10 years we've been doing it every spring. So we're actually it's been we had our one of our biggest. I want to say our biggest year this year. Even though we didn't see the most patients, ever seen was 115, and that was right before COVID. But the reason I think we had such a big year is we had thunderstorms, but we had people sleeping through the night through thunderstorms. There were like 50 to 60 people already in line at 6:30 in the morning when I got there in the rain. And usually on a bad day, because we had some bad days in the past, some rainy days, we maybe saw 50 patients, maybe up to 70 patients because of the bad weather. But through this bad weather, we ended up seeing 104. We saw everybody that stayed.
Nice.
104 patients. So it's growing. So we're starting to create a website just for Service of Smiles that we hope to have ready by the next event. So we're starting to realize that Asheville is depending on this event. I have a lot of nonprofit organizations that reach out to say, when is your event going to be this year? Reaching out on Facebook, when is your clinic this year? We've had some repeat customers that say, yeah, I was here last year, or 2 years ago I was here, or I wanted to come, but we were out of town. And thank you, so we have some patients that it's on their radar every year now.
Well, and that's the advantage, I guess, as you pointed out earlier, to having it at your facility, as opposed to, you said, some gym or something, because you have everything you need there, and you can take care of everything. Did some people come just get their teeth cleaned? Was that part of it?
Yes. I think how many? We had 46 cleanings. So there were some patients that just didn't have the means for preventative care. And with a lot of dental clinics, we have to work with insurance, and dental insurance is nothing like medical insurance.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
There's a big problem with that, and it's just like a rebate. And then you get this insurance, and then there are all these fine lines and hoops you got to jump through, even for the doctor. And half of them don't even promise what they sell. You have to. There's a sorry, you already had that existing condition, so we're not going to cover that. Or
right.
Yes, we know that you have enough money in your account, and you and your physician, you and your doctor feel that a crown is the best long-term thing for this tooth, but we're going to downgrade it to a filling. Why? It should be their insurance. It should be their funds that they should be able to use, but there's constant resistance from the insurance company. And I get it. They're a for-profit business. They're there to make money. I know their PR side, they're there to help people. But at the end of the day, they have shareholders. They have people that they have to keep happy. And they're trying to see where they can cut costs. But who suffers? Not necessarily the dentist, but it's the patients.
Now, some patients who came to you that day, was it the first time some people had ever been to a dentist?
Maybe not the first time, but there were some. And again, I didn't see all the patients that came through, but I talked to a lot that were coming through and welcoming them. And there were some that haven't been dentists in 10 years, or they were in their 20s and haven't been since they were a kid because they had a bad experience. So one thing we do, Blaine, is like when we do this clinic, we are considered a comprehensive, high quality dental practice. We have a lot of amenities, a lot of things for our patients. We give the same experience to those patients that come through. So if somebody's phobic, we have aromatherapy or other things that they can use to help ease their anxiety. We have massage chairs and chairs with heat, things that to try to give them not only take care of their dental need, but give them a good experience, help them overcome some of their fears and say, hey, what, dentistry can be like this. Don't be scared and not go for 10 years, and because sometimes dental issues don't hurt, just like high cholesterol doesn't hurt. But if you don't take care of your cholesterol and eat right or take medication to lower it, that can lead to some really big life-threatening problems. Well, same with dentistry. Some patients don't realize, well, I'm not hurting, so I don't need to go to the dentist. But if we catch something small, not only will it be less expensive, but we'll be able to save the actual tooth for much longer. where you'll be able to find, and when you come to our office, at least we try to tell you about how you can prevent it from happening again.
Yeah. And then to that end, there was a patient that came on that day of service on April 22nd, and our camera team was there for those who wanted to interview, who wanted to say something, and initially, she didn't want to say anything to the camera. When she went in to get her, I guess she was getting her teeth cleaned, or maybe she's getting extracted. Remember the lady I'm talking about, a young lady. She felt she had to say something and speak. She had told Dr. S that you gave me my smile back. You gave me my confidence back. Just a young lady. And just to see that, she smiled, and tears are running down her face when she was talking to our camera team. And I didn't know what to ask her. I didn't even have words to ask her.
You were present.
I was just present with her. And I believe I might have given her a hug after. So, a lot of these things you're going to see in the documentary, but it's really real life that I experienced. I was definitely felt like I was in the drive, like in the backseat watching all of this happening and all this life. And it had an indelible impression, but that's what it can do. It can give people their confidence back.
It's so cool because in talking about this, what you've done, both of you, is kind of taking an idea and made it into a story. And there's so many stories out there, but they never get told, So when you think about this, it's just, the ease of people. So they came that day. The other thing, Doc, I assume they didn't have to go through insurance. They didn't have to fill in 47 pages. Can you imagine? They just walked in and told you what the problem was, and you dealt with it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
How many people, when they walked in, did some people come in and they actually had pain that day, or they were having a problem?
There were, and there were people that had tooth pain where the tooth was so far gone, they couldn't even think straight. Like, they're going to work, they were distracted, they had so much pain, they weren't eating. So if they're not nourishing their bodies, then, they're more run down. So, there were some people with pain. There were some people that just were nervous because they were having some signs and symptoms, or they could see some dark spots on their teeth, and they were just concerned. And others just were thankful that they could come and they weren't hurting, but they just haven't had a cleaning in a while. So the whole spectrum of patients, coming from, I just want to have some preventative work, to please get me out of pain because I can't deal with this.
Yeah. And from all walks of life. The diversity, I was so, it reminded me again how diverse our city is, because you realize that, man, there's people from all over. People from Brazil. There was someone from Brazil that had just moved there a year ago to Asheville. There were just people from all walks of life, all different cities, and it was really interesting and really cool to see.
What's so meaningful to me in terms of this process is that I was in, years ago, Doc, a dentist's office, and this was before HIPAA, or they weren't following proper HIPAA regulations, and you could hear the dentist say, well, I have two choices. We can either do, I guess, root canal or some major work for you, or you could remove the tooth. And the person said, well, because the money, just remove the tooth, was cheaper than, I guess, the root canal. And what a shame, that people have to make that decision. That happens, I guess, too often.
And I would say in our office, we do see many different socioeconomic backgrounds, but most patients probably do have insurance or have the means. I'd say the majority of my patients, but even those, we have like some single mothers who are trying to put kids through college, and they're like, is there anything you can do to help, protect this tooth? I want to get it done. I just have so many other more pressing things. And it's kind of like most parents, they want to do for their kids, and they put themselves at risk. Or people who are taking care of a loved one that's ill, they always don't take care of themselves. They put others first. So there are some instances where we have to sit and help them make a decision. We're just one practice, and we don't get government funds. We're a private practice. So all these funds or these things that we're doing are coming from me or the practice. And we can't always do what we do on that day for our rest of our patients. And it's unfortunate.
Talk about two things, folks. That in terms of one thing, I don't know if we can show it, Caleb, but you have a brief clip. Is it available, or can we show that brief clip?
We came up with Servants of Smiles. We are now working on the framework and basically setting it up in a way where we can share it within other offices. So other offices that are want to do this type of day and give back to their community. But basically, we're creating a manual. So here, it's done for you. This is what you need to do, and we'll be there for support. Right now, we're the only ones in Asheville doing it within our office. But we always, I think a goal would be, wouldn't it be great to have at least 11 other offices within Western North Carolina that would have a day, one of these days. So one day a month, there would be this safety net for those who fall through the cracks within our medical and dental system. I want to be successful. I mean, who doesn't want to be successful in their venture? But I also don't want to be the only one who is successful. I want everybody in my team, whatever their goals are, whatever their personal, professional goals are, I want them to look back and feel like their time here, they were cared for, and that they were successful too.
Let's just go back to Servants of Smile. And so this is every year it'll be in the spring. And you're going to it's open to anybody, Doc, in the Asheville community?
Or and beyond. We had, I think a few years back, I think it was 2018 or somewhere maybe 4 or 5 years ago, drove up from Columbia. He said that his aunt told him about the event, and he had a tooth that was bothering him so bad that he thought he was going to pull it out himself.
Whoa.
And he ended up coming and spending the night. So we have people from all over West North Carolina. We try to reach out to a lot of nonprofits that, may have clients that have fallen through the cracks, and try to advertise through them as well to get those who really need the help.
In that one case you just mentioned, so what happened? Did he have to get the tooth removed, or were you able to fix it for him?
No, we always, sometimes patients come and say, I broke a tooth, I need to get it pulled. But a lot of times we can look at it and say, you know what, we can at least get a filling in that tooth for you. And, it may need a crown long term, but at least we've given you an opportunity to fix it for now. And maybe within the next year, maybe you can find the means or save up and get it fixed properly. This gentleman, it was too far gone, and he was in a lot of pain, had a lot of infection. But just the fact that he was going to take one of his old, rusty tools and pliers and try to get it out himself, he was in that much pain. I was glad his aunt reached out to him and told him about our event.
Do people do that, actually? Take their own teeth out?
There are stories of people finding all kinds of ways to anesthetize themselves and remove teeth that have been bothering them. But
go through that.
The problem is, the teeth can break. So you may get the top out, but you may leave the source, the root in, and then now to even a tougher extraction. So I'm glad people don't do that, but that unfortunately happens. Every now and then you hear about somebody trying to do something at home to get themselves out of pain.
And so going back to Servants of Smile, I'll ask you a question. If folks want to find out more about just that particular event, you said you're going to have a page for that, or it's...
Right. It's probably going to be launched. Our next event's not till next April. So what I wanted to do was put a web page together, because we get inundated with calls that are, during our normal business hours about people asking about it and all the questions. So it'll the web address, it's not up yet, but it'll be servantsofsmiles.com. And it will have a little explanation about what we do, why we do it, but also if you're coming to the event, when it's going to be, we'll have a posting of any events, and also kind of how to prepare. Like, what is it going to be like on that day? Make sure you prepare for the day. Make sure you bring an umbrella if it's going to rain. Make sure you bring a folding chair if you can't stand for a long time. Maybe a snack. If depending on where you're online, the first person is obviously going to be seen right away. But if you're number 50, you probably won't be seen till lunch. And if you're 100, you won't be seen till the afternoon. So patients, just like an informative website where people can go get information, see when the new date's going to be, and hopefully answer all their questions that they may have.
By the way, I love the name of the day. How did you come up with the title?
It was a collaborative effort. I did a contest within the team, and one of our team members came up with it, and so it came up collaboratively. But it really, the Servants of Smiles really kind of supports the essence of our culture there, and really reflect is really, and that's when Caleb came about this project. I didn't want it to be about me, because I can't make this day happen. It's all the great people that work with me. And, even if I had just 2 people that wanted to do this, 3 of us couldn't do it by ourselves. We literally had all but like 3 people show up to that day on a Saturday away from their families on their day off to come and help. So I wanted Caleb not to showcase me, but the team, because it's the team culture. And that's, I think you're going to show a lot of that within the documentary.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of team culture. I mean, these people do everything and anything together. I mean, everything from axe throwing to they share meals and food together. They just have a really great time in the office and outside of the office, and you'll get to get a sense of their team culture. It's like I said, it's palpable, and it's really amazing to see.
So we have a lot of people that put in great names, but servants of smiles. I mean, we have a servant's heart. That's what our culture is about. But and we bring people's smiles back. And that was, I guess, just that name just resonated with me. I'm like, that's the one.
And if we can, just talk a little bit about the practice, in that we talked about Servants Smile, and that wasn't the purpose of the podcast or the purpose of the one-day event. But I'd like to just highlight a little bit about your practice. So you've been in the Asheville area for a bunch of years, have a big staff. Why should people come to, is it Zoe's Dental?
Zoe, yeah, Zoe Dental. Zoe means life in Greek. I don't know if you were aware of that. Came up with the name early on in my career because I wanted Zoe. It's about sharing life with our patients. The good times, the weddings, the graduations, the new babies that come into our into the family's lives. But I also noticed that our patients kind of lean on us for the bad times, unfavorable diagnoses, deaths in the family. And really, as a general dentist, we're sharing life and participating in life with these patients. We're participating with life with our team and with the community. So the practice is, we wanted it, our vision is to change the perception of dentistry. People have had a lot of bad experiences. People have that. I remember used to going up to the sliding window and knocking on, tapping on and someone's like, yes, and closing the door. So we have a very inviting office. We have an office that truly listens to the patient, and we have actually almost like a little mini interview, especially when they're new patients, when they come in, and we ask them kind of like, what are your obstacles here? What do you value? Is it function? Is it cosmetic? Trying to get to know the patient, so we know how we can we can co-diagnose with you, and how we can help you meet what your vision is of where you want your oral health to be. So we provide not only general dentistry, but we can provide root canals, implants, work with dentures, sleep apnea devices for dental oral use. There are a lot of different things that we do because we are a comprehensive practice, but I think the difference is the experience we try to give the patient. We have comfort menus where we started that about probably 12 years ago, where a patient come in at no charge and select from the massage chair to a certain essential oil to even the good old stress balls, Wi-Fi, headphones, whatever they need to help them get through the appointment. There's no judgment. Just what do you need to help us help you get what you need done? So I will tell you that customers. So I wrote a book called Saving Your Smile. Came out in 2018. And it was primarily for patients, for people who wanted to understand what Zoe was all about, my vision about the customer service, about being patient-centered. But then also the last half of the book is just a guide where you can flip to your decade of life and say, okay, so now I'm in my 30s. What does that mean? What's a crown? Because most young adults don't have crowns. What does a crown mean? Why should I get one? Why would I need one? Up to your in elderly life where you have dry mouth, and what can that cause? You have dementia. A lot of families are dealing with older parents with dementia. How can that affect your oral health? What do they need to be aware of? So it's a very, I want to say, it's a simple book, but it also helps patients understand the value of their oral health. I cite stories from the last decade on patients that have lost their lives because they didn't get a tooth pulled or the infection taken care of, on how people have missed out on opportunities because they weren't being their best version of themselves and smiling and showing out their personality. They've lost out on jobs or other opportunities in their careers. There's so much that health-wise, how the oral cavity connects with the rest of the body. It's not separate. There are all these things that the average person should know, but they don't have a resource to get to it. And I wanted to put something together that was a simple read, very short, but hopefully gives them an idea of what Zoe's about, what our philosophy is about, and why oral health is important for them, why they should try to do these preventative things.
If folks want to read or see that book, can they find it anywhere?
You can find it on Amazon.
Okay.
I think we had it at Malaprops at some point. It's
Saving your
you know, what's that? It come out. The office we have.
Buy a book or something.
Yeah. I realized
It's a good book, by the way. I will say that this is one of the first books Dr. S gave me when we were having coffee together. Before we started talking about this, I lended it out to everyone in my crew, and they've just it's in it's in the hands of one of the people in my film crew reading this. So it's really good read, easy read too.
And the nice thing too, if they ask, we could even get Dr. S to sign it.
You know what? If that's just going to get you to motivate you to get with your oral health, come on by Zoe Dental. Just make sure that you call them a day I'm there. We're working 5 days a week. So sometimes I'm working from my home office where we are today. Sometimes I have these mastermind meetings where we learn about the community and how we can grow our business, but also how we can impact the community. But if they want to swing by for an autograph, I'd love to meet them and just thank them for taking time out for themselves.
And let me use that to segue into a final question for you both. So if folks want to find out more, first of all, about Caleb, we'll turn to Caleb in terms of this very talented guy with all these eclectic skills. Best way to track you down or find out about you if they're interested in film or something else, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, I mean, just call caleb.com is my website, CALLCALEB.com. So they can learn a little bit more about me, about some of the projects I've done, and watch as well. There's links to where they can watch. And this documentary will be on Amazon Prime. So we'll make sure to send a link to all viewers of Blaine's World, as well as to at the event when we'll have an event in August, which will also give more information about that. Maybe we'll come on the show again later in the summer.
Or the one that you told me, so I definitely want to see it. But in the interim, it's a call CALLCALEB.com.
That's right. That's
Okay,
where
great.
they can learn more about me.
You can track Caleb down. And Doc, the same thing too. I'll ask you before I ask contact information. So folks want to visit Zoe Dental or check it out. The office located is where? The location?
We're right off I-40 in the Biltmore exit. We are in a office park behind Grace WGYN, the Huddle House. Actually, the Huddle House. Yes. It's on Hendersonville Road, but it's right off the exit 50 or 58, depending on which direction you're coming from. Right outside Biltmore, and we've been there, since 2007. We moved to that location, we're always accepting new patients, but if they really want to get more information about the practice, really zoedental.com is the best place to see what we provide. I tried to make the website a window into the culture and kind of what they would experience when they come to the office. They can see some of the videos about what it's like to be a patient there, and also read about some of the team. They can get more information about myself, any of the other doctors. Our bios are there. So that's the best place to get information about us.
Okay, and there'll also be information, I guess, as soon as the documentary is finished, they'll have information about there as well.
Correct.
Yes. That, like I said, Amazon Prime will have a link for that at our first event, which will be in August, and so we're partnering with ABCCM on that, and it's going to be a really great time. We've already started to plan a lot of that, so stay tuned for information on that. And so, yeah.
And by the way, I also see that as your next documentary, in all seriousness, about ABCCM, just a magnificent organization that unfortunately a lot of the community doesn't know about. They do such good things. So is that in the works also?
Well, yeah. What we're trying to do is, Scott Rogers at ABCCM, who's been at ABCCM for a very long time, and he knows Dr. Stamatiades, because Dr. Stamatiades used to work on their day of service that they would have that like they said they could not do with COVID and after COVID. and bring back because of the expense, and it's a large event. So it's kind of interesting now that they're trying to, recreate this clinic and bring this clinic back. And so we're kind of partnering with them and using the documentary to help, raise awareness for that. And so it's really fantastic because that was one person that I knew he was on our radar. And that our press and promotion said that, this is someone that you should reach out to because the documentary that you're doing is in line with what they're trying to do. So it's fantastic how we can see those alignments within the community.
And I'll give you both a final idea, and I'm disappointed I didn't see Caleb in this in the past, but every year ABCCM, I don't know if you guys have seen it, runs the story of Christ. Have you ever seen that? And so every year I'm in it. And I was disappointed, guys, that this year I wanted to be baby Jesus, but they didn't let me be baby Jesus. So anyway, but it's a fun thing. It's just, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Doc, but it's just a fun thing to be in. You can be for a couple of hours a day, whatever you want. But another great thing, or it'd be a great story, talk about how they tell the story of Christ to the whole community. It's a beautiful story. Have you ever seen it?
I have, but to see you and now that I know who you are, I think we'll take it to a next level.
Well,
I
no.
can't wait to see.
I want you guys both in it too. It's just a fun thing. So they wouldn't let me play baby Jesus. So instead, another option was to be like a jackass, and I could be out the front or the back. But it said one year, this year I was a god, another year I was a rabbi. But it's just a fun thing to do. So hopefully I'll see you guys both there at that. And thanks an awful lot, guys, for being my guest on this Blaine's World podcast. Also to be my producer, thanks to my producer, Cappy Tossetti. Hopefully see you guys in the near future. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blaine. Really appreciate it.